I've been camping dozens of times, but this trip changed the way I see the woods forever. It was me, my best friend Jake, and my cousin Eric. We wanted to do a weekend getaway. No phones, no distractions, just nature. We picked a secluded spot deep in the woods near a lake. It was perfect, or at least we thought it was. The first night was normal. Set up the tents, built a fire, drank a little. But then, at around midnight, we heard a strange noise. Not an animal, not the wind. It sounded like a whistle. 3 slow, deliberate notes. We figured it was just another camper somewhere out there, but the longer we sat by the fire, the closer it seemed to get. We shined our flashlights into the trees. Nothing. After a while, the whistling stopped, and we laughed it off. But when we went to bed, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that something or someone was nearby. At around 3 a.m., I woke up to what I thought was someone walking near our tents. I held my breath, listening. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Heavy footsteps circling us. I whispered to Jake, "Are you awake?" No response. I slowly unzipped my tent just enough to peek outside. The fire was almost out, but there was enough glow to see the shadows of the trees. And in that faint light, I saw a figure standing just beyond the tree line. It wasn't moving, just standing there facing our campsite. I thought maybe it was a hunter or another camper. But something about the way it stood so still made my stomach drop. I ducked back inside, heart pounding. I grabbed the knife I always keep in my bag. Then, the whistling started again. Louder this time, right outside our campsite. I reached over and shook Jake awake. He groggily muttered, "What?" But I clamped a hand over his mouth and whispered, "Someone's out there." That woke him up fast. We stayed in the tent, gripping our knives, listening as the footsteps circled us again. Then, we heard rustling from the other tent. Eric had woken up, and he made a mistake. He called out, "Hello? Who's there?" The second his voice cut through the night, the footsteps stopped. The whistling stopped. Silence. Then, a rush of footsteps, running. Jake grabbed the flashlight, unzipped the tent, and shined the beam into the woods. I wish he hadn't, because the second he did, we saw it. The man. Tall, skinny, wearing torn clothes with a face I can barely describe, like he hadn't slept in weeks. His eyes were wide, bloodshot, focused directly on us. And then he charged. We screamed. Eric burst out of his tent. The 3 of us grabbed whatever we could and bolted to the car. I didn't look back. I couldn't. But I heard him. Running. Fast. We barely made it to the car, jumped in and locked the doors. Jake fumbled with the keys, and when he finally started the engine, the headlights flashed over the campsite. And there he was, standing in the middle of our tents. We peeled out of there so fast I nearly threw up. We didn't stop driving until we hit the nearest town. We told a park ranger about it in the morning. He nodded like he'd heard it all before. Then he said, "You boys are lucky. Others haven't been." We pressed him for details, but all he said was, "Some people go into those woods and don't come back. If I were you, I wouldn't camp there again." We never did.